Lovely. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today, joining us at Touch Day. And so today we're talking about balancing your Airbnb strategy. And whilst we're going to be talking about some of the recent changes that have come from Airbnb policy changes, we're really also going to be digging into what this means for direct bookings, what this means for your channel mix, and what your strategy should really be based on these changes that have come from Airbnb, and how we can kind of take back a bit more control as these platforms, make things a bit tighter and a bit harder and a bit more difficult to operate and run businesses in the way that you want to be running them. So I'll start by running through a summary of the changes that happened back in the summer, and then going into some of the changes that happened a little bit more recently around how you manage your nightly fees, and manage giving that information to Airbnb, and how you might need to adjust some of your pricing to accommodate these new rules. And then we'll dig into what all of this means for direct bookings and kind of what is the state of the channel mix environment right now. And that's where, Mark, I'll be leaning more heavily on your expertise because you are Mr. Direct Bookings himself. But yeah, let's jump straight in. So I'll start off with a recap of what's already changed. And if anyone has any questions as we go through, we will try and answer some as we go, if Mark sees some that are relevant for him, but we'll get to everything at the end, so don't worry. And everyone will get the slides at the end as well. So what is the summary here? So one of the big things that changed in August during the summer release was fees and off-platform payments. So these changes came because Airbnb really want guests to know what they're paying for and see one price and not see all these additional prices, and to just really, additional prices for a cleaning fee and other fees. They want everything wrapped into one nice fee. So there's less friction for the guest and it's easier for them to price compare. So this is not necessarily a change. It's more of a clarification of how Airbnb has kind of already been moving. Now, you'll see a QR code on this screen. We dove into this in a lot of detail, very specific detail, back in July. So if you want to get a bit more detail on this and really understand the very specific points, if you scan that QR code, it will take you through to the recording of our last webinar. So you can watch that later if we don't answer all of your questions right now. But essentially, what Airbnb were doing with this change to their fees and off-platform payments, can't say that. It's essentially about not having any hidden extras or unexpected fees for guests. So just really simplifying that booking experience for guests. But if it's simplification for the guest, there may be a little bit of complication for you guys. So what have they done here? So they really want to have transparency across all of those types of fees for guests. So all of your mandatory fees have to be put into Airbnb. So whether you're doing that directly in Airbnb, or if you're putting those fields into your PMS and that's feeding through into Airbnb, those all have to be listed. So they wrap up into that total price that's shown at checkout, and that has to be accurate. If you're not showing that accurate final price at checkout and there are additional fees later, that goes against Airbnb's policies, and you will be penalized for that. And then when it comes to off-platform and their fee transparency policy, so this is all around any additional fees that you might have related to the booking itself, related to that reservation, something like pool heating. Sometimes hosts might request that a guest pays extra for pool heating, for example. Payments for these types of additional extras that are related to the booking has to go through Airbnb. They can't be paid off platform. So the guest can't come to you later, or you can't go to the guest and say, hey, here's some nice little upsells for you to do that are related to the booking itself, so to the property. They can't be paid off platform. It has to all go through Airbnb. So for a specific breakdown of what all of those different types of fees are, what the exceptions are, and how it should all look, you can scan that QR code for a bit more detail. But we did put together this nice little cheat sheet. So feel free to screenshot this and save it for later. So this gives you a list of the fee types or service types, whether they need to be paid in Airbnb or whether they can be paid off platform, and a little bit more detail. So the types of things that have to be paid in Airbnb, that's your cleaning fees, your fees if people are bringing pets, pool heating, like I mentioned just before, security deposits and taxes, that kind of thing. Unless you live in a country where the taxes can only be collected when the guest arrives at the property, then there are differences there. I know that's the case in Spain, for example. and things that you can ask for payment off platform. This is typically what we'd refer to as an upsell. So filling a fridge, bike rentals, local experience upsells, that type of thing, payments can be taken off platform. So hopefully that's a nice cheat sheet explanation for you. Do give that a screenshot to refer back to later. But that's really kind of everything that's changed and what you have to be doing now to be compliant. Hopefully nice and straightforward. Nothing too dramatic. And then the other big thing that changed is around guest apps, guidebooks, and guest portals. So all these different third-party apps and tools that you might be sharing with guests. And this is quite interesting, and you might have some comments here, Mark, because this is one that's, when it comes to direct bookings, it's all about how you get the contact info from guests, how you communicate with them, and how you build that relationship with guests. So maybe if they've booked on Airbnb once, they might return and book directly with you later, or even find you directly in the first place. And this one comes back to a really interesting topic around who really owns the guest. I think in the mind of Airbnb, they own the guest, they own that guest experience, at least from a booking perspective. For hosts, it's very much, well, you're coming into my properties, you're my guest, I'm offering you that experience, so you own that journey. And so that I always feel there's a bit of tension here between who really owns that guest and who has the responsibility in being able to manage communication with that guest. So this is a little tricky one. And of course, Airbnb want lots of nice control. So the main things that have changed here are around off-platform guest communication and how you can market to guests in the future. So there was quite a lot that changed here and some very specific wording and policy changes from Airbnb. So again, the QR code here will take you to the previous webinar where we really dove into this, but to give you a summary. So we've known for quite a long time now that you've not been able to get the guests' not been able to get the guest's email from Airbnb. You just get that email alias and nothing at all. You still do get phone numbers in most cases, but it's been a while now that we've had to adapt because that email address has not been available. But now this is going a little step further. So what Airbnb are doing now is they're prohibiting your ability to ask guests when it comes to off-platform communication. It's prohibiting your ability to get them to create a new account or register on another website or platform that isn't Airbnb. So the wording here is very specific. So essentially, you can't make it mandatory for guests to have to download or use a specific third-party app, guidebook, portal, etc., in order to access the property. It has to be optional. So the key thing here is around access to the property. So you can't put your door lock codes, for example, or instructions around accessing the property gated behind an email address. So the guest shouldn't have to exchange their email to get access to the property. That has to be available to them. But as with Touch Day guidebooks, for example, that's a link you're sharing with guests. There's no download necessary. It's entirely optional for the guest to click that link, read your guidebook, but that is perfectly within the guidelines that Airbnb have laid down. So the key thing to remember here is here we're really talking about access. You can't do anything that limits the guest's ability to get access to the property. That's all got to be done within Airbnb. And the other point here is around soliciting guests for their emails using the Airbnb messaging system. That is not allowed. So you're not allowed to ask guests to give you their email address, which is super annoying because when it comes to continuing to have, to build a relationship with guests, market to them after they've left the property, request a review, that kind of thing, you're not allowed to ask for their email addresses or phone numbers or other contact information for those kinds of purposes. You are allowed to, or the guest is allowed to give you their email address and share information with you if it's coming from them directly. And there are little ways you can get around this in order to make sure you can communicate with the guest, especially at their arrival to your property and while they're staying there. Again, we have a nice cheat sheet here. So if you're thinking this is a bit confusing, what can I do? What can't I do? So here we have listed the actions such as requesting an email or phone number for marketing purposes. No, you can't do that. It's prohibited by Airbnb even after the booking. If you're requesting the email or phone for legal requirements, that is possible, but if it's required for the stay, and that has to be disclosed. So here are a couple of the examples that you have. the good news is that guests can still offer you their contact information. So if things are initiated by the guest and it's not used for marketing purposes, but to really make sure that you're able to communicate with the guest to ensure their stay goes nice and smoothly, that's fine as well. So there's your little cheat sheet on how you can manage some of your communication here. We do go into way more detail about lots of different types of scenarios in the previous webinar. So do check that one out if you want to have a cup of tea, sit yourself down for an hour and really dig into that, or put it on double time and speed through in half an hour. So summary, things that we really recommend you do as a host is review how you're collecting guest information across all of your channels to make sure that you're compliant. Make sure you're using opt-in methods only when it comes to gathering that guest information. Look at your SOPs, payments, upsells, and just check everything and all of your workflows to make sure you're nice and compliant. So there you are. That's a very quick summary of everything that we've chatted through before.
Before we go to the next bit, because there's more news, there is more things that they've been doing. So from a Touch Day perspective, seeing this as a Touch Day webinar, how have you guys adapted to these new rules and how is it not affecting Touch Day members? Because I assume that that's a question that's on the top of everybody's lips.
Definitely. And the good news is we were already pretty much compliant. There's a few little things we've done, such as removing, or recommending rather, if you have in your guides links out to other platforms and other things that are no longer compliant. So we've made a list of recommendations for Touch Day customers on what they can do to make sure they're compliant. But fundamentally, Touch Day's product is compliant because the guest doesn't have to download anything. The Touch Day technology is not an app. It's a web app. So it works it's browser-based essentially. So the guest doesn't have to put in any information or share anything with you in order to receive that Touch Day link. You can send it to them, the guest chooses and therefore opts in to click on it. Touch Day actually has an integration with Airbnb. So we're able to send the links to all of the individual guidebooks directly into Airbnb's messaging inbox, and we automate that when you use that integration between Touch Day and Airbnb. So we are compliant. So you continue using Touch Day as you always have been. There were a few features that we were working on or had previously introduced that weren't compliant, but those have either been rolled back or adjusted. So the good news is you can keep using your Touch Day guidebooks without any fear.
Nice. And I know what people are thinking as well, and I can see somebody's already put it into the chat, is that Airbnb's communication on this has been pretty dire. You can call right now and speak to an ambassador or a rep, and you will get different answers from 3 different people that you speak to. There is no, obviously, like from a Touch Day point of view and from the other vendors, they've got their contact people and that's who they're speaking to. But again, if me or you were to call Airbnb support today, and the question that's been popped in is that we need to get an email address to sign our policies for hot tubs and pets. Some people have to collect an email address to get access to a HOA or a resort, etc. There are obviously workarounds, and I'll be able to share later on some other cool workarounds that you can do from a marketing hat on that I always come at this with. But yeah, there are obviously, it's been really poorly communicated, and the good thing is about, again, if you're with Touch Day, you can stay compliant and not have to worry about all of the nonsense in the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been so much confusion and so many questions and so much conflicting advice. So hopefully we've given a little bit of clarity. And for folks that do want to really dig into this, and if we've worried anyone, definitely go back and listen to that previous webinar, because we really dug into a lot of that and live answered quite a lot of questions that we had to, because there's lots of kind of edge cases that are not necessarily covered in the wording of the policies. So yeah, note to Airbnb, a bit cleaner communication next time, I think would be welcome by everyone.
Yes. And then they've done other things. So
but wait, there's more. Absolutely.
And there's more. Yes.
So what else? What's new? So this is the really fun one. So the one that's ruffled a lot of feathers and caused a lot more confusion, I think, is this announcement that I think has been in place since August. So this is where Airbnb is ending the split fee model, where previously it would be 3% for the host and between 14 to 16% paid by the guest on bookings. And so now for PMS connected hosts, so if you're managing your Airbnb business with a PMS, although there are caveats, they're now moving just to a flat 15.5% host only fee worldwide, except for some reason in Brazil where it's 16%. So if anyone here is managing their business in Brazil, it's an extra percentage point for you. So apologies. So this is a little complex and it does involve quite a bit of math. So I'm relying on research done by far more trusted mathematical minds than me. And I'll share that resource in a moment. But to summarize, and this is the key thing that I think a lot of people have been trying to highlight here, is that the key takeaway is this is not necessarily a cost increase. It's a rejig about how you're setting your rates. So your margin does not necessarily have to shrink if you're adjusting your prices accordingly. So if you're based in the US, this is going to be quite a big shift for you guys, moving from that split fee to that host only fee. In Europe and depending where you are in other regions, it's been at this 15% for a while, and now only being nudged up to that 15.5. So for everyone in the audience who's thinking, hey, wait, it's different for me. Yes, there are differences depending where you are in the world. And if you're a smaller host and you're not PMS connected, so you're not connecting to Airbnb through a property management solution, you can still stay with that original split fee model unless you opted into single fee earlier. So lots of caveats, lots of confusion. But the best advice I have here is don't panic. And a bit of advice here for, what you should actually be doing. So what should hosts do? So a reminder that this isn't an automatic margin loss, but you do need to make adjustments. And so essentially what's being recommended is that that flat fee that the guest sees on the front end, your nightly rate, and that includes your cleaning fees and any other extras, that is increased by 18.34% to make sure that your payout that you would have been receiving before stays the same. And so stays the same after that 15.5% cut is taken by Airbnb. Now, I would never trust me to do any mathematical calculations. That is not, I work in marketing. Maths is not my friend. But there's a really great article here that was written by a friend of Touch Day, Thibaut Masson. And if you scan the QR code here, it will take you through to his article here from Price Labs that explains this in really nice detail. So if you want to have a step-by-step breakdown and even get more context around this change and what it means for your business, this is the resource that I really recommend to have a cup of tea or a glass of wine, sit down and spend some time with this to dig into the calculation for how you can work this out based on your rates and your individual business.
Yes. And even Thibault got this wrong the first time.
Yes,
so even
him,
experts
yes.
like Thibault got this wrong the first time. So this is like his updated version. So it is good to definitely to 100% check out. If you are using tools like Price Labs, etc., then they are your friends here. But I think the main thing is that when people first saw it, and if you are somebody that, especially in the States, has been paying this 3% and all of a sudden it's jumping up to 15.5%, you're instantly thinking, whoa. But like I say, once the sort of the dust had settled a little, again, Airbnb have not communicated this. This is like people are having to sort of do the maths and sort of figure this out and then explain to everybody, don't panic just yet. Like there's my opinion on it, and I'll share my opinion later on what they are doing and why they're doing it and how to sort of get around it. But don't panic just yet. And you have got until October the 27th. And if you are not connected to a PMS, you're good for now. I hear that there's a date in December that something's going to be happening. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Again, it's not being communicated. But again, I think eventually everybody will be on this flat rate, whether you are connected or not.
Absolutely. It just seems to be the way that they're trying to move everyone into this one uniformed way of working, just because it's a much smoother and frictionless experience to the guest. And when people like Airbnb are competing with Booking.com, with Vrbo, and with other OTAs, the online travel agencies, as we call them, as more of those pop up, and especially as they're gaining market share in different regions, there's going to be more that Airbnb wants to do to ensure that frictionless experience for the guest and keep them on their platform. So how could we help you guys? Because thinking about Airbnb and the other OTAs and all of these platforms that you're building your businesses on, they're important and absolutely critical to the ecosystem, but there's so much more that can also be done when it comes to direct bookings. And because we're talking direct bookings, we of course have Mark here because he is the man to go to when it comes to direct bookings. That's his entire, that's Mark's business. That's his shtick, his shtick. So we're going to talk now a bit more about kind of the context of the OTA landscape, and looking at the big three and thinking about some of the other regional fellas poking around as well, and what this means for you and kind of what's changed, where things are right now. So this is, when we refer to the big three, it's Airbnb, Booking.com, and Vrbo. And pretty much globally, those are the big three. There are others that pop up, whether you're in Europe, the UK, or the US, but these are the guys really leading the market. So what do the fees look like with these other channels? Because you might be thinking now, well, if Airbnb is 15.5%, then I'm going to go somewhere else. So Vrbo is still around 8% for the host and 6 to 15% for the guests, so it varies. Booking.com starts at that 15%, so almost equal with Airbnb, but they do have extras and things that can push that up between 18 and 20%. So when you're thinking about your channel mix and you're thinking about your pricing, setting your rates, thinking about which channels you want to be putting the most of your energy into, this is nice to have in mind. And then, oh, there we go. Oh, so with this in mind, thinking about why direct bookings really matter, because if you're building your business on someone else's island and they're changing the rules and they're really the ones dictating how you can manage your operations, maybe direct bookings are the place to be, where you get more control, more focus on how you want to be running your business and building those direct relationships with guests, building loyalty, building your brand. And this is really what we want it to be all about.
Before you go to the next slide, because we're going to look at things on a macro level on the next two slides, everybody. So what I would like is from a micro level. So in the Q&A, just put out of 100%, how many of your bookings at the moment come from Booking.com, Vrbo, Airbnb, Expedia, those big sort of four. So between 0%, so you're all direct, to 100%, every single one of your bookings comes in from the OTAs. Just pop your number. Again, there's no right or wrong answer on this one, but we're going to see numbers on a macro level. But I really would like to see it on a micro level for your good selves. If you're just getting started, obviously you can't really share those numbers. But if you've been doing this for at least a year and you know what your numbers are, please do share. Again, there is no right, there is no wrong. So sorry, Emma, back to you.
No, I think that's really important to see because, and already I'm seeing there's a huge variety between how much of business and revenue is coming from the OTAs and how much is coming from direct. And I think, as you say, Mark, it depends on if you're just getting started, if you've been in business for a longer time, what your property types are, what your business model is. There's no right or wrong. There's no, if you're 50% this or 40% that, you're not doing anything necessarily right or wrong. Everyone's business has their own context and their own way of working. But it's really nice for us to see, and for everyone else here to see as well. You're not alone. There's people doing this in lots of different ways, and there is no right or wrong. Super. So what's happening in the market right now when it comes to channel mix? What's the market landscape? So here we have just a brief snapshot of what's happening in the UK right now in 2025 compared to 2024 and 2023. So we can see for the UK market, looking at data, and this data, interesting, it was just released this morning, a brand new report from Key Data, and there's a QR code here if you want to scan this to get this report for yourself. It's free. You can download this report and read it for yourselves. It goes into a lot of detail about a lot of not just the OTAs and revenue and their market share, but a whole host of really important market data specifically for the UK and breaking it down into different regions of the UK as well. So you can get quite granular. It's a really nice report. It just came out this morning, so hot off the presses. So with this brief snapshot here, we can see that the big three are continuing to increase their share of reservations. So you can really see how, each year the percentage of reservations are going up. But when it comes to the percentage of revenue, that revenue is still sitting with your direct bookings. So overall, the percentage of reservations that are direct, whilst those are decreasing year over year, and you can see that on the chart here. When you flip over here and we're looking at the percentage of revenue, whilst that is still decreasing slightly in line with that decrease in reservations, it's still significantly higher than with the OTAs. So when you're thinking about direct, you're thinking about a much higher percentage of revenue that you're able to generate based on bookings that would be coming from the other platforms. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're thinking about your channel mix. If we then switch over to looking at what's happening in the US, it's a similar story. So the US follows this trend, and we're looking here at Q2, so second quarter of this year, comparisons year over year for the last 3 years as well. So Airbnb is still in the lead here, but interestingly, the revenue for direct, whilst it's dropping, is still leading. And a lot of this is due to the strength of the US market and the size of that market too, compared to the UK. So this just gives us a nice idea of which channels are really driving the market in each of those regions. Airbnb is really leading in the US, where booking is a little more ahead and growing steadily in the UK. Feel free to scan that QR code to get a bit more detail there. But really, this leads us into the meat of the conversation. And direct bookings, whilst you're able to maintain a much higher revenue per booking, despite the fact that they are declining in market share. And actually, there's a lot that can be done to potentially reverse some of that decline now that the OTAs are trying to take more control. They are pushing operators more and more and really squeezing them. Are we going to see a flip back actually to the percentage of bookings actually decreasing with some of the OTAs as hosts and property managers decide to focus a bit more on direct because they've been pushed a bit too far? What are your thoughts, Mark?
Well, this is where we come into it. So please do put your questions in the chat. There's some really good ones in there, and we will definitely dig into it. Before we get into direct strategies and what we can do here. So some of the questions that I've seen, there's one from Patricia Emma that talked about parking fees. Now, within the Touch Day digital guidebook universe, can you take those payments within Touch Day? Is there a way that you can do that, or how is the best way to sort of take things like parking fees or like upsells for an extra night?
Yeah, so those types of fees that it is possible to take the payment off platform, the typical upsell, those, yes, you can indeed take those fees within Touch Day. We have an upsell widget that we released a couple of months ago, where it's possible to list up to 20 different upsells within each of your guidebooks and take the payment for those. Sorry, at the moment you can't take payment, but that's coming literally in a couple of weeks. It's right on the cusp of being available. So right now you can
breaking news.
Breaking news. So you can list your upsells, and the guest can confirm them. And so book them with you. You just then have to follow up to take that payment, but that's coming very, very shortly. So this gives you a nice way of remaining compliant, but still being able to manage those upsells and take those payments.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, like with Airbnb, is that as long as you are working with a trusted partner, third party, like a Touch Day, and this is really cool that the payment option is coming in soon, then you are compliant. You don't have to worry about it, and the thing that's happened since May, I would say, ever since their summer release, it's a lot of confusion for a lot of people. I mean, you just have to go and look at the Facebook group posts. You just have to look at, webinars like this where, we've got how many people? 73 people in the room. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to this. And there are a lot of people now where, this is the straw that's broke the camel's back for a lot of people. And we've got people that are now looking to go multi-platform, that have just been on Airbnb. The numbers speak for itself, what you've just been saying. And, with that, as you start to look multi-platform, this thing called direct bookings has just come back time and time again. So this is why we're doing this webinar. And, I'm really excited to sort of dig in to this, and we can sort of answer as many potential questions as possible. But what I will say, when it comes to things like upsells and fees, if you are stuck in any way, shape or form, Touch Day have got an amazing community, an amazing support, amazing guidance. Go to them. And, you can always speak to Airbnb as well. Unfortunately, like we've mentioned with Airbnb, you may speak to today go and speak to one person, speak to another person tomorrow and get a totally different answer. So I can see how it can get confusing. But the reason why we wanted to put this webinar on, and the reason why I wanted to do this chat, is because I've been doing this for a lot of years. I was born into the world of hospitality. I grew up in the northeast of England in a farm stay bed and breakfast, and we exited that business in 2021. And when we exited, we were at 80% direct. And the reason why was because of very simple marketing and sales tactics that we put into place as a family, back in 2011, 2012. And the cool thing for you, whether you're just getting started or whether you've been doing it for a long time now, is that the tactics and the things that we put into place back then still stay prevalent to today. So we can definitely dig into them as much as you possibly could want to. But why? Why should we do this? Well, I've seen here the numbers that you're putting in. We asked the question, what is your split from direct bookings to the OTAs? And anything over sort of 50%, it always just raises a little flag to me a red flag to me that we need to be doing something. And this is the reason why. And I feel like the last couple of months, I've been justified with everything that I've been saying for the last 10 years. And, Emma, you mentioned it. If you build your house on somebody else's land, then you're just setting yourself up for trouble down the line. So let's go to why and what's been happening. So let's just look at it from a very simple point of view. At the start of this year, Brian Chesky went on and did an interview with a big publication, and he said it yesterday at the Skiff Forum. He wants Airbnb to become the Amazon of travel. He wants it to become the everything app. And when I hear things like that, and it's not the first time that they've mentioned this, it really does, again, get my little spidey sense going. And the problem with wanting to become the Amazon of travel is that if anybody's ever tried to sell anything on Amazon, you will know how in control they are of everything in the whole process. So just as an example, I released this book. Here it is. This book is called The Book Direct Playbook. I released it in 2022. It has sold a lot of copies, which is amazing. But when I sell anything on Amazon, of every dollar that I bring in, they take 66 cents, which is insane. The reason why they can do that is that they monopolize the book industry. I haven't got the ability to do this direct. I have not got a printing press behind that wall. I've got a 3-year-old bedroom, right? And so with that being said, I had to do it on Amazon. And whenever I make a sale on Amazon, I don't get the name, I don't get the phone number, I don't get the email address, I get nothing. All happens is that I get money put into my bank every 3 months. So that's the Book Direct Playbook, if you are wondering. Book Direct Playbook. Write it down or message me on Instagram afterwards at Boostly UK. I'm more than happy to share the link. Now, when I think of Airbnb and I think of what they're wanting to do and where they've come from, okay, so this is not an anti-Airbnb story at all. I feel like what they've done is insane because they started back in 2008, just 3 friends wanting to make a little bit of extra rent. And they've turned this idea into what is the biggest online travel agent in the short-term rental space. In 2017, they had 15% of the market, 15. At the end of 2024, that number was 62%. So not only have they caught up with the bookings.coms of the world and the Expedias of the world, they have overtaken them. And they are the market leader. They are on the way to monopolizing this industry. And this last couple of months has been really telling because that 15.5% is a very interesting number because a year ago, that was 14% for the flat rate fee. Then it went up to 15%, and now it's 15.5%. Okay. What is stopping them from going, listen, let's just pick a name, Paul, right? We bringing in 100% of your bookings. So we feel like we need to be charging more for your commission. What is stopping them putting that to 20%, 30%, 40%? We feel like this is a 50%. We're going to charge you 50%. Nothing is the answer, is going to stop them. The only people that can stop that from happening is every single one of you that's on this call now. And look, I get it. I totally get it. Like when you are starting a business, and I feel like there's a chap in this room who has only been going for 3 months, I think he said. So when he knows firsthand what this is like, right? When you're starting a business, there are so many plates spinning, so many things you've got to remember to do. And that plate for sales and marketing, if you can just go, listen, that plate, that is just covered from Airbnb. That is a very fortunate position to be, because there's no other industry that I know where you can start a business, take a couple of pictures, go and list it on 1 or 2 websites and be pretty much guaranteed revenue. We are very spoiled in the world of hospitality, but that is the case. The problem is when that plate stops spinning. And that plate could stop spinning for a number of reasons, right? And unfortunately, it's happening to a lot of people. Number one could be the algorithms change. And all of a sudden, your property that is on page number 1 at location number 1 is on page number 3, and nobody goes to page number 3. It could be a little bit more sinister where, you get a couple of bad reviews. If you get a couple of bad reviews now, your listing just tanks off the algorithm. Or it could be even worse where a guest complains, there's no humans, it seems, behind Airbnb support anymore. It just goes straight to a computer. And, I've seen really good hosts had their account suspended for 6 weeks over something as little as a guest complained about a camera in the property. That camera ended up being a Ring camera, which is allowed. But because the guest complained to Airbnb, they literally, shit the bed. I don't know any other word, nicer way of saying it. Shut down the account for investigation, and they were off for 6 weeks. The people that talk to me about that is happening more and more and more now. And if you're not able to bring revenue in for 6 weeks into your business, for a lot of people, they can't survive that. So when we talk about direct bookings and people go, oh, it sounds really nice, that thing called direct, I'd love to do that one day. It's not like it's a need, and it is a necessity. Now, again, unfortunately, you just look at the comments and people go, well, how do I do this thing called direct bookings? It seems really, 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 really hard. And, it really isn't. And, this book has got 101 tips in there where you don't even have to spend any money to do it. And there's 101 ways to get started, but I can also see how overwhelming it could be. But what I would love to do in the sort of the time that we have, and I know we haven't got a lot of time, is to maybe dig into one of those things that we could start by doing, if that sounds all right with you, Emma.
Absolutely. And I think that's what people want. I think people, with all of this confusion and mess and people getting different information from different sources, even directly from Airbnb, I think people just want practical, actionable things that they can do tomorrow. And have a clear playbook or set of steps to follow. So I think that's a fantastic way to approach it.
Cool. Well, let's get started with the first one then. This is something that you can do. So as soon as the guest walks into your property, the guest is yours, right? If you were to speak to booking.com, and if you speak to Expedia, if you speak to like the higher ups and even like the people at the events, they are fully on the same mindset that as soon as they get the booking to you and the guest walks through your door, they are your guest. And you have got all of the right to then make sure that that guest has an amazing time. And if they want to come back and stay with you, they can book with you directly, however you want them to book. Expedia and booking.com are banking on the fact that you don't know what you're doing in terms of marketing, so that they will just come and book back via their favorite OTA. This is why they spend millions, if not billions, on marketing to ensure that. So the first good thing that I want for you to realize is that we are never going to outspend the OTAs, right? So what is the point in even trying to outspend them? But there's a really cool stat, is that 70% of all direct bookings comes on the back of starting on an OTA. So what that means in simple terms, and there's a chap here who is on the board at Future Stay, Phil Kennard is part of Future Stay. I learned this stat from Phil, and it fascinates me to this day. But in simple terms, what this means is that your guest, your future potential guest, if they book with you direct, 70% of them have started their search on Airbnb, booking.com, Expedia, Verbo, etc. So what that tells me, and what this means that every single one of you need to do right now, is to go and optimize and look at your listings on Airbnb, booking.com, Verbo, etc. And what you need to be doing is leaving little breadcrumbs that will show the guest how to go from Airbnb to Google to your direct booking site. Now, when I say breadcrumbs, there's a difference between leaving little hints and clues to just going straight up into your listing and saying, go book with me direct at www.booster.co.uk. That is not going to fly. The AI that Airbnb, booking.com and Verbo have built into their system will flag that a mile off, and you'll be getting a call from their rep or an email from their rep very, very soon. But there are little things that you can do. So what I would love in the Q&A, just somebody please give me the name of your property and where you're located, and your business name as well. So if you brand your property, your overall business name, and the place that you are located, whoever's the first, I will give you an example of this. Who's going to be the first to do it? Okay, so Harriet, the Mission Isle of Wight. Anna is Bella Vista Apartments in Crete. Silby is Villa Obschlick in Waterbury. Now, my first bit of feedback with this is that you want to be, every single one of you, branding your properties. Okay, so I don't care if it's in an apartment block. I don't care if it's wherever. You want to be giving it a name. So, for example, the retreat at the Little Oaks. I love that from Andy. Okay, so on your Airbnb listing, the first bit of description, the first bit of copy, the first thing that the guest reads after looking at your pictures is introducing the retreat at Little Oaks, wherever Little Oaks is located. Then you will, in the next line, check out our online reviews. They're really good. Or go check us out online. We're an award-winning, whatever. Instantly, what you're doing is you're laying a little breadcrumb to the future potential guest that they can go and check you out online. Now, I'm not saying to go visit my website. I'm not saying to go and book with me direct. I'm leaving a breadcrumb. Now, you may be thinking here, Mark, what is the likelihood of that happening? Well, there's a lot. There is a very cool tool that is a Google Chrome extension that was created last year by Directo, D-I-R-E-C-T-O. If somebody please could just put that in the chat or somewhere. That is a free Google Chrome extension. That has been downloaded over 300,000 times. And the reason being is last year in 2024, there was a trend going on TikTok showing people how they can get better rates instead of booking on Airbnb. One content creator put a TikTok reel out, and all of a sudden, loads of TikToks and loads of Instagram reels were flying around showing people how they can find an Airbnb listing, reverse engineer the image onto Google, and it finds their direct site. Directo was a plugin that was created on the back of this, and that has been shared so many times, hundreds of millions of times on these social impressions. And now lots of people are using it. Now, when people land on Airbnb, booking.com, Expedia, and on a Google Chrome extension of Directo is installed, it tells them on the site, hey, you can find this better by going direct. So people are becoming more and more aware of it. And like I said, that number is 70% of all direct booking stay starts on an OTA. The reason why you are not getting people on your website is because you are not leaving the breadcrumbs. So the first place that you need to go, and you can make this amendment today, it takes 2 minutes, just go and change the copy on your listing in the description at the very top, and you brand your name, you brand your business, and tell them where you're located. Because then if they go and Google search your property name, your business name in the location, you will come up at the top, right? It is a very, very unique keyword that they will just instantly find you at the top of Google, on the top of Bing. Okay, there's a whole other conversation is about your website, because the average industry website converts at 0.4%, which basically means you need 1,000 people to be on your website just to be able to convert 4 people. Okay, so that says to me that your websites are crap. This is why we do website design. Our websites convert at 2.4%. It's 5 times higher than the industry average. If you want to chat to us about websites, come and have a chat with me, boostly.co.uk. But you've got to be able to lay the breadcrumbs in your OTA listings to get them to go from there to your site. The other place is your pictures. Now, your pictures, you can't go and put watermarks. I've seen people doing this. It's very clever, but the AI spots it. But the next time that you have a photo shoot, what you can do, I've seen people leave coasters. I've got one in front of me. I've seen people do fridge magnets, which have their details on it. I've seen people do pillows and just basically brand the pillows with their business name, even their website, even a QR code, which is awesome. So basically you are branding your photo shoot, you are branding your listing so people know that you're not just a hobbyist host here, you're a professional outfit. And then they will scan the QR code and then they will go to your website. Again, you can't just add a QR code as a watermark on an image. You have to bake it into the image and the photo shoot itself, because if you try and do a watermark, Airbnb AI will spot this. And
I did this, Mark. I think this is amazing. And I've saved so much money, but as a guest booking direct. And now I go back to these places and I've built relationships with the people. I know their pets. We stay in touch. It's like, it's such a nice experience for the guest and so much more valuable for you and your business. I love this idea.
And the other places in your profile, so your Airbnb profile, you've got the bio. You can put in there that you are, you know, Stephen, what's your name? Stephen Found, I am the owner of Brand Your Business, right? Because people will go and check you out. They will go and find your business direct, because again, like Emma said, the assumption is that now you'll get the best rates when you do book direct. Okay, so that's a breadcrumby place, how you can go from the OTAs to your website. Okay, let's look at the other avenue. Let's just say that a guest has walked into your door and they've booked through whatever the channels. Now, you want to be getting that data. You want to be getting the email address and the contact information. There's a tool called Stayfi, which is a very cool, basically an app that your guest will, to have to get access to the internet, they have to give up the email, right? And that is a tool that's been used all over the world many, many times. Loads of people use it. It's fantastic. It is a cost, but Stayfi, which is Stayfi, is a really cool tool, because then it gets the email, the phone number from all the guests, not just the lead booker. If you haven't got the money to do that and you want to do a freeway, then you can simply set up a Google form. And this Google form will be in exchange for your top tips, or whatever you want to do. You can put this on a QR code around your property, but they scan the QR code and then you can get the email address, the phone number, the first name once they're in your property. Again, you can't be putting this in the messaging on Airbnb, but as soon as a guest walks through the door, like I say, they're your guest. You should be doing everything in your power to generate and get those leads, because the businesses, and I've seen this over the last 10 years after working with over 2,000 hosts, it's the businesses that can collect the data, the emails, the phone numbers, the names, are the people that win in this direct booking game. I'm going to ask a very quick question to everybody in this room now. How many email addresses have you collected in your business? And again, there's no right or wrong answers. It can be one, it can be two. I'll give you a story in a second about how this is crazy. So I was speaking to somebody that had 7,000 emails, and he was complaining to me that they never got any direct bookings. And I said, but you've got 7,000 emails. When the last time was it that you send a broadcast email out? And he said, I've never done it. I was like, dude, 7,000 emails. And just to give you a reason why I'm so bullish on emails is that for every dollar you put into email marketing, you get 42 back, right? That's a 4,200% return on investment. It's pretty good. So what I got this guy to do is I got him to send an email out. I even crafted the email for him to 7,200 people. Sorry, to 7,000 people. And the email wasn't salesy in any way, shape, or form. It was an email that comprised of 4 words. It was, do you know anyone? And again, you can all use this template if you want. If you want me to send you the exact template that I'm going to tell you about, just send me a message on Instagram. Just go to Boostly UK, send me a message and just say you came from the Touch Day webinar, and I'll send you the exact copy. But The email that we sent was, do you know anyone? And the synopsis is that if I was to send a sales email out of the blue to 7,000 people, it will just go in the junk or spam. But if I send a question of, do you know anyone? It's going to evolve, and no, not evolve, that's not the word. It's going to have interest to that email. And instead of me selling to the person, all I was literally doing was asking them, do they know anyone? So the idea is this, is that if I was to send a message to Emma, Emma knows who I am because Emma has already stayed with me. Book direct, just like the example that you said. I say, hey, Emma, this is Mark here from yada, yada, you stayed with us. You know, we loved having you as a guest. You're an amazing guest. Do you know anyone who is as cool as you that is looking to come and stay in Barcelona, looking to stay in wherever, right? This person was located in Chester, right? If so, please introduce us via email thread or pass their details on. Here's a link to our website. If anybody books and mentions you as the reason why they've booked, we'll send you X in return. And X could be anything. You know, it could be something that is reflective of your local community. So I grew up in Scarborough. A Scarborough sticker rock is very well known.
Nice.
You know,
Very nice.
it could be something a little bit more bougie, like a bottle of wine. It could be just straight up cash, Amazon vouchers, whatever you want it to be. But you've got to dangle the carrot, right? We sent this email out to 7,000 people and we were inundated with people coming back to us. The true win came from this one guest. So this Chester in the UK is well known for having a mixture of tourists, but also business guests. And this one business guest has stayed with this chap and stayed with his properties and had a great time. And he messaged back saying, hey, I'm not coming back, but I want to put you in contact with our accommodation specialist. Our company has just signed off on a huge construction gig in and around Chester, and I've got 200 people that I need to home, right? That 200 people turned into a high six-figure booking for our client just off the back of one email. That is literally all it takes is one email. So the story behind this is get the data, get the emails, but then do something about it. I've seen some numbers here where they're saying about 250, 200 emails. You know, if you've got it, you've definitely got to use it. And the other tip I'm going to give you is this, is that with Airbnb and booking.com and Verbo, we are still very fortunate that we get the phone number. I truly believe it is only a matter of when, not if, that they take the phone number away or have the phone number where it is solely built within the platform. I don't know how it looks from a logistical point of view, but I feel like it's gonna stop. While we still, I'm from a farming background, and my dad always used to say to me, you know, you want to make hay while the sun is shining. So I'm going to say this to you, but from a hospitality point of view, is that while we've got the phone number, let's do something about it. I've been talking about this for a long, long time of calling your guest, right? When we're in an age now where, for whatever reason, we don't like talking on the phone, right? We're sort of afraid to speak on the phone, but when everybody zigs, you zag. And on the phone is when you can do your best work, right? And I truly believe this. And I've done a whole session on this at one of the scale conferences. It was in Barcelona a couple of years ago. And the people that do this earn so much more revenue. And the way that you want to structure it is that when the booking comes in, whether it's you or a member of your team, you pick up the phone and call them. And the phone call isn't about sales in any way, shape, or form. It's about hospitality. You know, there's that really famous book, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Everybody's talked about it. Everybody loves it, but no one actually puts it into practice. In simple one-on-one terms, pick up the phone and call your guest. If Emma books with me, I want to be calling it within 24 hours. And the reason why it works is because nobody's doing it, but you instantly stand out from everybody else. And the reason why you stand out is that the guest of 2025, and what I know to be true, is that guests, when they're booking a place to stay, a lot of them aren't just booking one place, they're booking 2 or 3. And then what they're going to do is just rely on this flexible cancellation policy that we've been forced upon. And they're going to book free because they get the FOMO and they're like, listen, I want to go to Barcelona, but I don't exactly know where I want to be. I'm just going to book these free. I'm going to cancel 2 and keep 1. We
It's mad
can't,
behavior.
we can't stop that. We can't get in the way of that, but we can put this in our favor. And what you've all got to realize is that a booking isn't a booking. A sale isn't a sale until they walk through your door. All right. And so the way to stack the odds in your favor is to pick the phone up and give them a call, because the other two won't do that. You instantly not just a name or a number, you're a person. And when I speak to Emma, it's going to be, hey, it's Mark from yada yada. Really wanted to say thank you so much for booking with us. We really appreciate it that you're doing that. This is just a super quick 1-minute phone call just to make sure that your stay goes as smooth as possible. Have you got a minute? Any objections to us speaking right now? Okay. It's a super simple conversation, lasts less than a minute, but it has a world of good. Now, when you're on that phone to Emma, we've got people here saying that they book the boat trip over to the Isle of Wight at discounted rates. You can say, oh, by the way, Emma, how are you getting over to the Isle of Wight? I assume you're booking a boat. Emma will go, yeah, just to let you know, we have special rates because we're on the island. Let me know directly, message me directly if you want me to sort them for you. Because then, like what the Airbnb rules are stating, like what Emma's stating, it is the guest who is initiating the conversation, not the other way around. All of this conversation is happening on the phone. It's not happening in the Airbnb messaging app. It's just me dropping a super friendly call to a super friendly guest. All right. The second thing that you can do on that call, just say, hey, listen, just to let you know, at the present moment in time, the 3 days after you're checking out is currently empty. If there's any flexibility in your calendar, and if you would like to book those 3 extra dates, message me, give me a call directly, and I'll sort you out. I'll give you a discounted rate. That's allowed. That's okay. Right. The only thing that is stopping you from doing that is you and your perception that people don't like to be spoken to. But this is so different from a cold call to a customer service call or a customer success call. And the cool thing about it is it's free, doesn't cost any money, and you can actually do that today. I guarantee you over the course of the next 48 hours, you'll have a booking come in. Try it, give them a call, see what happens. Now, I can go into that tip way more, and there's actually 2 other touch points I like to do in that section, but again, we're going to go massive over.
We are running to time.
We are running to time, and I've got to go and do the school.
We can go over a little bit, but
we can go for a little bit. But yeah, I've got to go do the school run very soon. So, is there any questions on the back of that? Is there any questions that you spied in there that I could just quickly answer, or how are we looking?
We've been doing pretty good with answering, and there was one about phone numbers which you've gone into. There's a few others, especially around using Touch Day and emails and phone numbers. If you go back to the previous webinar, and the recording of this will be sent out, by the way, everyone will get this, so you'll be able to dig into those there. One last bit here. If you want to ask more questions to Mark, I know I do, you can scan the QR code here and this will take you through to some of Mark's resources. So you can learn more, poke around, ask him, harass him with more questions yourself directly. And then there are 2 last bits from us. So we're launching a host insight report, which will be coming out later this year. And we want to hear from you what questions you want answered to understand what is important to hosts, what's happening in the world of hosting. We're pulling together this really great, insightful report. So scan the QR code on the left if you would like to take part. And then a little gift to people who are potentially new to Touch Day. So if you're already using Touch Day and you love us, and your next step is to go and speak with Mark. But if you're not already using Touch Day and you're curious about Touch Day guidebooks, if you scan the QR code on the right, you get to use our brand new AI guidebook generator. All you have to do is paste in your Airbnb listing link, and your guidebook we will pull all of the information that you've already beautifully curated and optimized in your Airbnb listing and populate that into your Touch Day guidebook. You don't have to do anything. So this is only for you if you're brand new to Touch Day and haven't previously gotten started, but give it a go. And as Mark says, look at your listings, optimize them. This is your #1 place to start. So I want everyone who's joined us today to put into action these things that Mark has said, and let us know. Let us know on Facebook or get in touch with Mark directly on his Instagram, boostly.co boostly.co.uk, boostly.uk.
If you go to Instagram and it's Boostly UK, BOOSTLY UK, make sure you put the UK on the end and just say you've come from the Touch Day webinar. I'm more than happy to share with you the copy that I mentioned about Do You Know Anyone? If you've got any further questions, just drop it in there. And I'm active on there. I think I log on once a day, so I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's so nice to really focus on the practical things you can actually do and not fretting and worrying about things, but actually, no, you do have control. There are actions you can take, and the route to direct bookings is not as complex and confusing as you think. All the steps are right there for you to take today, tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything that we've just shared then, they take like the Airbnb tip takes 5-10 minutes. Literally, you can go do it now. And like the phone one, the trick is to that is the confidence to do it. It will take you a good few days to pluck up the courage, but once you do one, you'll do two, and then you'll do more. It's just about putting the reps in.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you for everyone who's joined us and stayed with us through the whole of the session. Pretty much everyone who's still here. We really appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy your afternoons, mornings, wherever you are in the world, especially those folks in Vancouver. Thanks for getting up so early to join us. And the recording of this will be sent through to you so you can watch back at your leisure, and make sure you note down all of Mark's great tips. Thank you all so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.